now pixel art, and I'm very, very excited to make it because I project in it.
All right, great. That's a great leading to the actual meat and the bone of today's cup of coffee. So we have been hearing rumors and murmurs about your recent release, Death and Taxes. Sabine has been over the moon. And there's quite an interesting backstory to this game that will relate to some of our game programmers and game designer students who might be working on their thesis in the near future. So can you tell us a little bit about your game's unique story?
Yeah, I think I can take that.
Yeah.
It's so basically the game is about the Grim Reaper who works on an office job, and the game was super important to me. I came up with the idea to actually talk about death and to deal with the hard topic in a more lighthearted way, and to make people think about it. So because I have like a background also that my mother died when I was really young, and people didn't really talk to me about it. So this was a thing that I saw in Western society, that people get super quiet about these things, and there's no reason to do that, because in many other cultures people talk about these topics a lot. So how I actually got some information about the topic was through Grim Reaper characters in media, for example, cartoons or books like Terry Pratchett's Grim Reaper. And this is what was the way to deal for me with the topic. And I think death should be more in games, and like there is a lot of death in games, but it's not talked about. It's you just kill somebody and there's like no consequences to that, and you don't really think about it. So it's not like the real world. And so I made a thesis about this. I had this idea. I really wanted to make this game. I really fell in love from the first sight with this game idea, because I felt like it would be perfect for the market. There is no other games like this. And I saw that I'm sure that this would work out. And so I made a thesis on this game. The thesis was about putting a death-themed game on the digital market. So I was talking about marketing, also about writing, and all of that, about art for this. So yeah, we actually finished a demo for the thesis. And at first they wanted to ban me from making it, because there were some like older people uh, who were against the idea of like a young person making a game about deciding who lives or who dies. But it was because they didn't know all of the morals, ethics, and my long thought behind that. So they assigned me an ethics professor as well to help me with making the game, the thesis. And we talked through with him, and he thought that it's all okay, it's all good. And yeah, the thesis did super well. Everybody was super impressed because I actually just had to fight for being able to make this thesis, and it worked out super great. And then we finished the game in like 9 months after like doing full production, and now it has sold over like 120,000.
Wait, let me just quickly check in the other tab. Yeah, it's about 120, 130,000 copies.
Yeah, so It's great. Of course, we had like the marketing plan and everything. We had it straight from the start, so we knew what we were doing. I was looking at a lot of talks, how other people are doing it. So I
Talking
wanted
to like actual industry people
Mhm.
about this as
Yeah,
well,
I
asking
wanted
for
to
advice.
I wanted to learn from others' mistakes because it was the first big, like my own project that I was making.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like very important to kind of also, I think, to emphasize that we were not doing this on any budget. We were just like everybody who was on the team and everybody like other than us as well were working on the promise that we're gonna make a good game and we're gonna get at least some money back from it. And it did turn out quite well. Like I had a more conservative estimate for how much the game would sell, and like an optimistic one as well. But Lena's baseline was already more optimistic, so we kind of like landed in the middle there. But it still exceeded both of our expectations in the end. So that was very
Nice.
good because we already had thought, like we already kind of had a plan B. We were living in Sweden in a place called Spelkollektivet for the last like 5 months of the production. And then we were just like minimizing our expenses, and it was a really good place to do it there. And then we were basically thinking like, oh well, if this game doesn't work out, then let's just freelance for like a little bit, because even if we sell like 1,000 copies or something, we'll probably manage to get like a few months of rent, and then we can like start looking for freelance jobs after we take like a short vacation. But the game ended up kind of like blowing up a little bit, like not like big scale like a viral hit, but like an indie hit basically. And then it was just like, okay, so I guess we're gonna keep working on this game for a little while then.
Yeah, I'm gonna share this as well because I think it's a important tip that I was applying to everywhere like crazy because I wasn't working. I didn't have any money, and I got to a lot of different cons, even like GDC in US for free. I didn't like. I was still studying. I had no money really, and of course we also got like some Erasmus money as
Yeah,
well to
scholarships.
scholarship to go to. I was just googling around, asking around, and trying to just grasp of any like
Opportunities.
opportunity I could get, and this was the main reason why I was able to survive wholly just to making the game
Yep.
for some time. Otherwise, I would have been just working on something else and doing this half time. But this was why I was able to do it full time.
And like considering that if you apply to like 20 different places and you can only get a reply from one, then you get a reply from one and you go with that, because
Yeah.
that's kind of a thing. You use like a breadth first, like you go very wide, you just apply everywhere,
Yeah.
and then you see like, am I gonna get in somewhere, and then take it from there.
For me, I got into more places that I thought. So I actually at one point was struggling to go everywhere that I promised to go because I was like, oh, I have this opportunity, this. Like, yeah, like I said, like if you apply at 20, you might get like 5 or something, but this might be really, really good as well. So, yeah.
Absolutely amazing. I have a few follow-up questions about what you two just talked about.
Yeah.
For example, I'm interested in, and I think many people are interested in, the fact that the thesis was kind of the skeleton of your whole project. So how much did the thorough planning that goes into a thesis that many students even struggle with because it's such an extensive project, how much did it end up actually helping develop the game, since it was probably a very rigorous and extensive plan?
Well, it totally did help. I had thought about these things before as well, so it kind of helped me to write this thesis that I had already thought about these things. But the thesis itself also helped me to think things through. I think with this game, it was very good because it's such a deep and story-heavy game. It's all about the story. Then I think that I was like thinking about it and working on it in pre-production before even starting to program something, but just to molding out the ideas and where do I want to go with it. So I won't say like it's important with every game really. If you have like a more mechanics based game, then it's good to um, be more practical, test it out. But this one was like it's all about the thinking and the story. So it was very helpful for me to actually write the thesis as well, because at the point after the thesis we were like uh, this idea was like ripe and ready to actually start working on like as the full production.
Yeah, something to keep in mind. Like I've never had a thesis of my own about games, but I've like overseen a few and consulted with a few. And what I've seen is that if you do have to or want to write a thesis about a game, then the thing that it forces you the most is to learn how to talk about the game to other people in an academic context. And this academic context is actually really important as well, like because you can actually transfer some of that into like professional industry communications, because the terms are largely going to be the same. You're going to talk to people and they will understand what you're saying, and not like struggle for phrasing or grasping
Yeah,
for
it will
words.
sound so much better when you know what you're talking about. So
Yeah.
somebody asks about something and you're like, oh, I wrote about this in my thesis as well, so I could like talk the same ideas, and then people will be, oh, impressive.
Yeah. Like what
So that,
one suggestion I would have is that don't really, talk about the game itself so much, but talk about how you got there. If you're writing a thesis as well, because that's kind of the important part, the process. If you document the process for yourself as well, it's an important part in academic research as well, the process. So if you have that written out for yourself and communicate it to others clearly, then just you can imagine how much this is going to help you when you actually have to put a design document down. It's like you can always use that as a base.
yeah, and I also like talked about the things that were most interesting for me in the thesis as well. So talked about how to make a branching narrative and go deep into that, and also how to like talk about death in a video game. So the things that really are important to you or interesting to you, it helps to go like deeper into that as well.
Okay, I have more questions too. Since this game sold much more than anticipated, so has that introduced changes to your plans?
Oh yeah, it changed so much. Like we basically figured that now we can also do some more additional content for the game because we had been doing so well. We see that, oh, people like it, and the sales numbers weren't the motivation behind this. It was mostly the review score, because we were very close to overwhelmingly positive on Steam, and then kind of dropped down to the very positive, but still like over or around 90%, which is something you don't really see every day, right? And that kind of drove us to make some more content for the game, do some more polishing, add new languages, so adding localization and porting into other platforms, and all of that. We're still doing that. So like we don't do it full time anymore, but it's like basically 1 day a week or something. We're still doing like post-release stuff with Death and Taxes. So otherwise, if the game would not have had like such a high adoption rate, and like also adoration rate, I would like to say, then of course we would have probably focused somewhere else. But we felt like we really needed to kind of reciprocate the love that we got from the community. So that inspired us to work more and more, because we started getting these amazing stories from people, how it had affected their lives and how it had helped them out. And we were like, well, I mean, we gotta do something with that.
Yeah, and also like it of course has changed our lives, because our we always wanted to do full time, like just do games and do whatever we want to do and work as much as we want to and when we want to and be our own boss. So we got to do that before as well, but then we were struggling money wise, and we were like, okay, we only have a few months, we have to release this, we won't have food in a few months, so we have to get this out. But now it's much more calmer for us, because we know that we can just continue making our next projects. We could make project or two or even three, and we have a room to fail a bit. Of course, that's not the plan.
Yeah.
But of course you can't like hit with everything. So I feel like I'm so much calmer currently, uh, and I get to do what I want to do, and don't stress out too much. So that's a total change in like lifestyle as well. Yeah.
That is very motivational. I know for one, as a consumer, if anything has near overwhelmingly positive, I'm going to buy that game without second thought. Otherwise, not so much. So very well done. I wanted to ask about a little bit of the financial hardship of the project. Since you both were doing full time, we can all managing our own economies, imagine how difficult that can be without having employment or other income venues. So how did you manage to deal with the stress and finishing a game in the first place with such a must have been nerve-wracking, thinking that if this doesn't make it, I might have to do some funny things, or it might get a little difficult.
Yeah, for sure. So what we kind of did was back in July 2019, we were just thinking about like what the options are, and then we thought like, okay, we're just going to cut down on every cost possible and see like how much are we going to have to spend per month, and how much are we gonna be able to like run with that, like how long. And then I had just recently like come off the Disco Elysian team, and I had some savings from that. So basically, like we, even if we like minimized it a lot, then our runway was still something like at best a year if we would like really like keep it super tight. So we'd have been good like around like July 2020. So that would be like, yeah, about 4 months after we had planned to release Death and Taxes. So we had some runway. But the point is like our costs did start getting like fluctuating, and sometimes even more than we expected. And then we're thinking like, okay, how can we like do like optimize this even more? And then Lena found this scholarship that got us to Spelkollektivet. And what happened there was that instead of paying like let's say 1,000 euros every month for rent and food and utilities and transport and everything like that, we were spending around 600 euros a month for the two of us, basically. And then like a couple hundred on top of that for like candy. You know. So we were just basically being very let's say strict with our schedule. First we checked like how long are we going to be able to get by, what opportunities there are to see how we can like minimize some costs or get rid of some costs entirely. And then also like looking for opportunities where we could get something additional that wouldn't be like an investment or something, because we wanted to 100% self-publish. There was like we didn't want any investors, any publishers to kind of be touching that, because it was a very personal project for pretty much everyone involved. And yeah, Like we were just setting the limits for ourselves and then deciding like what we can do in those limits.
Yeah, and it's like I said, nobody got paid, but we made revenue share contracts with everybody, so everybody got a piece of the death and taxes cake, and yeah, it did well, so everybody got very well paid afterwards. But the thing is, it's kind of hard when you come up with an idea and you're like, oh, I'm going to make this game, and then at first you have to sell this game not to the buyers or not to the players, but your team members.
Yeah.
So if you're coming up with this great story, why should they come and join your team? So basically what I did was, firstly, I tried to be as professional with everything as I could. I talked to them why I think this would work out, and that I have like a very certain plan, and we already had some very cool looking concept art from our concept artist that I started working together with, and like getting people excited who are starting to work on the game. So I feel super happy that actually people decided that it was worth their time and money
Yeah.
to invest in, and they were all paying their own bills and making this on the side. Of course, they weren't doing
Yeah.
it full time, but they were still up to actually helping out and making this because they believed in it, because I believed in it so much.
Yeah.
And I had statistics and information to back it up why this is a good idea to make this game.
And like, for example, our lead writer eventually also took like loans so he could work on it full time, and then we also like shipped him off to Spellkollektivet for 2 months as well.
Yeah.
Like with a scholarship we got from Spellkollektivet, so that was very nice. So we had like, again, like we were just looking for those opportunities, how we could make it happen, and like also trying to be very realistic about it. Like one of the most important things that was kind of the end goal was that we decided on the release date and never let go of that. We were basically saying to ourselves that whatever game is done at that point, we are going to release it. So we did have to cut a few things, but we also actually ended up making the game bigger than expected at first, just because things were going so well.
We were like, oh, we should finish this game 1.5 months before releasing. Then it was 1 month, then it was 2 weeks, and then it was like 1 week before release we finished it. So it was very good that we actually left ourselves the time. We also had like a very strict marketing plan. So at one point we were half time making the game, half time marketing the game, and it's super important as well, because we have seen some games that are good, come out with a game, but haven't thought about the marketing, and then they will be drowned in a sea of other games as well.
And that was kind of the motivation, that it's going to work out and we're at least going to get like something for our troubles.
We were already had quite a lot of wish lists as well, so we were less and less like troubled if we would sell some copies at least of the game.
You had such a great team and such a great idea, so everything is perfectly balanced. We have a question from our chat. What do you tell to past you if you can give one advice to younger yourself who is just starting this game industry journey?
For me, it would be like, don't forget the people around you, because for me, this was one of the biggest challenges, was that when I started in the industry, I was so passionate about it, I kind of neglected the people around me and didn't really maintain any like strong friendship bonds or familial bonds or anything like that. And I was never like lonely or anything. I was still surrounded by friends. But the point was, like, at one point, after also a massive 7-month crunch, I discovered that I didn't have anybody to kind of talk to in that sense, like very close, like about about the stuff that had like worn me down even. And then that was kind of the moment where I figured like the only people that I can talk about this are my industry friends who are like immediately around me, but nobody else basically. And I knew that eventually I would probably, you know, go away from that company. So I would say that, yeah, like nothing is going to be worth sacrificing your connection with your people basically, and try to keep that in mind and keep that in balance, because it can have a profound effect on your mental health, on your well-being, on the range of emotions that you can feel as well. So that's something to kind of always try and ground yourself. Even if you're super passionate about something, then you know you can share that with other people. You don't have to keep it necessarily to yourselves, and definitely like don't drown yourself into work.
Yeah, for
I think
me,
it's so
it
true.
was totally about my like self-esteem, because I wasn't doing that great at like grade school, and I was always working on like other projects, and I was learning other things by myself. And I was kind of harsh with myself, saying like, okay, I need to have like better grades, and I'm like failing at things. But I learned afterwards when I went to uni that actually these things that I'm doing on my free time, that I'm doing out of my passion, I have learned these things so much more. And it's super important to be proud and actually notice what you like to do, and the creative part. If you're doing some creative things, then even if it's a stupid, I don't know, meme or something, it might be much more like, and you should be proud of the things that you create. And these things are what are going to like give so much more to you than just regular just studying. so yeah, that's very important. And I did some things very well as well. Like I would totally recommend everybody to take part of game jams, because I started from game jams, and because you learn how to think about players. If you want to make a good game, then in a short time you have to cut everything else, and you have to only leave what the players will see. And this is one of the best things I have learned, really. And it's so important to just keep the things in games that the people will see and enjoy as well, whatever those things are. So yeah, if you can make a game jam game, or 10, or I don't know how many, I have probably made like 30 or something like that, and at this point, so it's basically the same, but it's just so much bigger if you can run a marathon, then in the same way, then you will be good. Yeah.
Both are great reminders to all students. I think both of your past issues might concern the same thing: a little bit of dedication and drive, and maybe being a little bit too critical of yourself. These are often side effects of having that passion and wanting to get better. And often, for example, personal life can feel taxing to maintain, and you might just want to dive into that project and just work and work. But good advice from these seasoned experts now. Please, everybody, try to balance your life, even if it's sometimes a little difficult. We work so we can enjoy our lives. We don't live so we can work, so to say. Okay.
Sorry, Arte, I think I have one question.
Go ahead.
How much do you think it is important, for example, to join? Because I think you were also participating at games camps, and also like you are like a little bit partly of our Baltic Explorers. How important it is for our game developers and also for the students who are like working on their games to join such programs as we are offering? Are they important for example, for networking and for learning? So would you recommend such programs that we have? And my last thing is, by the way, you made me today very, very happy, and I'm very proud of you, and thank you for being so honest and sharing.
Thank you as well. I would, say that it is important. I would say specifically that if you are looking to join some programs and you're going on like an application frenzy or something, then always do make sure that you're picking the ones that you get the most kind of benefit from, which fills in the most blanks. Like some programs might not be right for you, and some programs might give you exactly what you need. So that's also kind of like do some research, not on what's only available, but also like what you would specifically need, and try and tailor that to making your like improving yourself. That way you will get the most out of these kind of programs as well.
Yeah, I think if the program says that they will ship you out somewhere to network with others, then that will always be very important. Like networking is a part that has got to me like quite far as well. If I didn't start networking, I wouldn't have all of these amazing people like who work who to work with. I wouldn't had a lot of good recommendations from other people. I feel like the game industry is such an open and nice place to be in, because all of the people answer anything, because I have gotten so much help as well, and paying it forward is very important. And yeah, but like I said, apply to all of the things, and networking is very important. And for me, especially, like some people don't like this kind of way of living, but for me, I have a kind of interweaved work and personal life as well. So a lot of my friends, I would say, are game developers. We lived in a place full of game developers. Also, Ott is my life partner as well. So it's like for me it works. I'm sure it doesn't work for everybody, but it's totally fine also to be fully in the industry and have the social part of your life in the industry as well.
Ott, I had a question for you.
Yeah.
Since before Death and Taxes, you worked on Disco Elysium at a studio. Great game, by the way, loved it. You have experience on working on a studio, an established studio, and now on like a passion project that many people dream about of your success. I'm gonna make a game by myself. I'm gonna release it. I'm gonna be a millionaire. Gonna be great. How do these two experiences differ from each other, and which one has been more better for you?
I mean, there was kind of a reason why I wanted to turn away from like corporate games development and go more into like communal game development. And I was also like, when I was still working in Germany and living in Germany, I was contacted many times by the people working on Disco Elysium to come and work for them. And then I was still like in the middle of stuff. So I just kept like postponing it, and it didn't happen until like 2018 that I started working there. And then I kind of truly saw what it meant for, um, it was very amateur in the sense of that there weren't any people there who had made a game before, like released a game before, except for one person that also joined at one point. So that was like something. And I was like the second like full-time person on the team who had actually shipped the game. So it was a very exciting experience to kind of set some expectations and work with a lot of people who like to dream a lot but are not in connection with reality that much. So it was an exciting time to work there, because there were no like realism limits for a lot of people working there. It also kind of made them exceed what they kind of dreamt of as well. And I definitely like that in kind of environment more where it's like more unshackled, and you do have the freedom to kind of truly pursue your personal style of art or styles, if you will. and it's also kind of cool for me to work on many things at a time, because like compared to AAA development, you're usually like you're gonna be the person who makes all the plants in the game, or the boxes, or the stairs, or the programming for a specific type of gun, and you're gonna do that for months on end. And while that can be super exciting because you're doing things on such a high level, for me, I kind of like the variety that this independent style and more communal style of development brings, and it's kind of just like, it's more inspiring for me, and it's more, I'm feeling more inclined to discuss all things with other people, and having that ability and keeping it in like a smaller scope, that you can truly make a game that focuses on a very specific kind of topic, and do your best to kind of stylize it so that you don't lose out on the message, but you know, you still get your point across, even if you are not doing like super high quality production value stuff.
But of course, I know that you actually learned a lot from being like in a big company. So that was useful, even though you didn't like it
I
that
learned
much.
a lot. I learned a lot,
So
and I also learned